Hey y'all, what is going on? What is going on? It's your girl, Melba Pearson, Melba from Miami, Melba for Justice, also known as the resident legal diva. And it is time for another Mondays with Melba. So, first off, if I sound a little hoarse to you, that's because I am, because yesterday was Miami Beach Pride. And, number one, I consider myself an ally to all marginalized communities, but especially the LGBTQ community. So it was important for me personally, I felt, to show up and also raise our voices around Representative Fabian Basabe, who won our district by 300 votes, claiming he was a moderate Republican, yet his actions dictated the exact opposite. So, of course, you vote against the LGBTQ community and the people in this community that give birth. You show up to Pride, well, folks are going to have a little something to say. So, and that's exactly what happened. And I was proud to be part of that. Also, before we get into our amazing guest today, just want to center Ralph Yarl. He was the young man who is now fighting for his life in Missouri. He was shot. He knocked on a door, the wrong address, and knocked on the door looking to pick up his siblings. And the homeowner, instead of just being like, dude, you got the wrong address, felt the need to shoot him. So we're praying for his recovery and for justice to happen, because we should not be living in a world where you knock on the wrong door. Literally, you knock on the door. I'm not saying you climbed into people's window. You knocked on the door and you get shot. I mean, that's just unfathomable to me. So I hope that, if the facts bear out from what we are hearing, that this person gets prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, because that is not okay. All right. So the topic today is abortion, and I need to bring in my guru, Nancy Metayer-Bowen, who is she is all things amazing. She's a fellow Virgo sister, so you already know what time it is. So Nancy, welcome to Mondays with Melba.
Thank you for having me, Melba, and everyone who's watching. It is an honor to be here. I watch you occasionally, and you just spit all the knowledge. You make all of the legal stuff very palatable. So I commend you for doing this. Our community needs it. For those who don't know me, I am Nancy Metayer-Bowen. I use she, her pronouns, and I wear many hats. And one of the hats that I'm very proud of is being a community advocate. You may see me speak about abortion and gender rights. You may see me talk about climate change. You may see me talk about affordable housing. But what we don't know, what we fail to mention as a community advocate, is that sometimes all the time, these issues intersect, and they are not more important than the other. They're all social justice issues. So when you're fighting for one, you're fighting for all. So with that being said, I also have the honor and privilege of representing 134,000 residents in the city of Coral Springs. I am also a commissioner, and that is something I'm very honored and proud to do, and it brings me a lot of joy. Sometimes it doesn't, but we won't talk about the times that it doesn't. But for the most part, I do love serving, and again, it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nancy. So, talking about, again, the focus today is reproductive rights and abortion. And last week, a 6-week abortion ban was signed into law at 10:45 p.m. with no press.
Sneaky,
I
sneaky.
wonder why that is. But let's talk a little bit about the state of play of what abortion rights looks like in Florida. I know there's a lot of confusion around, there's a 15-week ban, but now there's a 6-week ban, and what does this mean, and all of this. Can you share a little bit about what's going on so that folks can kind of get a better idea of where we stand?
Yes, great question. So I really want to reiterate this. The 6-week ban does not take effect immediately upon Governor DeSantis' signature, right? And that's because we are currently waiting. When I say we, it's all the activists across the state who are advocating around reproductive justice. Florida's Supreme Court to rule that it would undermine or eliminate Florida's constitutional right to privacy. So with that being said, I'm not hopeful that's going to happen, because the other side has been very strategic in stacking the courts and making sure that they have the votes, right? Or the people in place to make the decisions that they believe is the right decision. I'm not saying it's the right decision, but I'm not confident that that's going to happen. But until that happens and the court strikes down, we still in the state of Florida, it is legal to have an abortion until 15 weeks. Now, this you're probably wondering when this decision is going to be announced. We are guesstimating that that will happen in the summer months of June. So June, July, we don't know yet. But until then, 15 weeks. You can get an abortion up to 15 weeks. So if you are that person who needs this type of health care, this it is not illegal to go and get an abortion um, before 15 weeks.
Right. Okay. And I think folks may be hearing a lot about what's going on in the Supreme Court right now, right? Because we
Right,
had
right,
a situation where two different judges in two different states have made conflicting rulings on access to the abortion pill. So a judge in Texas says that for some reason, the Federal Food and Drug Administration, that's been around for God knows how long and has approved just about everything from vitamins to
right,
vaccines to everything else, suddenly they've gotten the abortion pill wrong, which again has been around for decades. And he has basically said the abortion pill is illegal. A judge in Washington state has come out and said, nope, nope, abortion pills, it's medically safe, it's all
right.
based on sound science, etc. What happens now?
So we know that a medication abortion is safe and is legal, and that is currently the agenda of the other side to making it illegal to happen. So this form of medication can be used within 10 weeks of pregnancy. It's more prevalent. It's harder to trace. It's becoming a preferred method. So, with that being said, our anti choice leaders are trying to criminalize this method because it is just more efficient and it's harder to trace. So, when I say it's harder to trace, you can get telehealth, you can get consultation that way, right? And say, for instance, in the state that we live in, Florida, you're saying that I need this form of healthcare. So you reach out to someone in New York and say, "Hey, this is what I'm going through, and I need to end this pregnancy." They say, "Fine, I will prescribe you something, and I will mail. You can get this a medication mailed to you." So technically, you are providing a form of medication, right? Treatment. And this is why it's untraceable and it's easier. It's not a barrier for most people. And so folks are able to get this type of healthcare without it being any barriers. And anti-choice leaders do not like that. They see this as, oh, you don't have to go see a provider or you don't have to walk into a clinic. I want to make it one step I want to take it one step further and make it harder for you to get this type of healthcare. And so this is what we're seeing now, the attacks on healthcare, even if you're seeking this type of healthcare in a state where it is legal.
And I mean, there are a couple good points there that I definitely want to dissect. I mean, number one, the abortion pill is highly effective. And again, like you said, within 10 to 12 weeks of pregnancy is still safe. And also, folks are getting it from overseas.
Correct. And like you can't stop that. And I think it's gotten so far where people are saying if you're seeking this type of health care, that it is considered manslaughter. And we're seeing this type of legislation being pushed in states like Louisiana, in states like Ohio, and the list goes on and on and on. So that is the next wave of banning abortions, right? And we all know who that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the working class. It's going to hurt immigrants. It's going to work individuals who don't have health care, who can't afford to pay um, all this money to get this type of medication or try to get this type of healthcare. So it's unfortunate that we are taking this, not us, but the anti-choice leaders are taking this step to make sure that women, people who experience pregnancies cannot have to have a forced pregnancy. It's unconstitutional, it's inhumane. And I also want to remind individuals that abortions are not something that people go around saying, I want an abortion and screaming on top of their lungs, right? Majority of abortions are wanted pregnancies, are wanted pregnancies. These are people who find out that they have a fetal abnormality. These are individuals who have issues with their fetus or not living to full term, and they have to abort the or end the pregnancy because then it becomes septic and it can make you very, very ill. And so what we're seeing is that there's no exceptions to that, and the exceptions that are written in this legislation is also inhumane. There's been exceptions for rape and incest, and we all know that 10 out of 10 individuals who survive a sexual assault do not report it. So you are asking individuals to relive their trauma. And when they to relive their trauma, and not only that, get a written document and then get two doctors to tell you why you need to get this type of treatment, let alone one doctor signing. Because when you put when a physician puts their license on the line and says, hey, this person needs an abortion, and the courts see this as this is negligence or malpractice, they may, and their license may be in jeopardy. And no one wants to put their license in jeopardy. So it's going to be even harder for you to get a physician to write those two letters for you.
And definitely want to piggyback on that because we had a protest against Representative Fabian Basabe. And again, if you're in District 106, that would be Miami Beach, North Bay Village, anywhere up there. Like, listen, election time 2024, basically he campaigned as a moderate Republican, and that on day one, he was going to introduce a bill to protect a woman's right to choose. Well, the entire session came and went. And when it came time for the 6-week abortion ban, he walked out of the vote, wouldn't vote yay or nay, but voted down all the positive amendments that could have made this bill better. So we have to be very vigilant in holding our elected officials accountable, as well as I believe it was 7 or 8 Republicans that voted no to the 6-week ban. So we also have to commend our elected officials when they do what's right. But I want to share the story of Anya Cook. Her story was first, I believe, published in the Washington Post and then was picked up by Essence magazine. Basically, she's an African-American woman. She had a series of miscarriages and finally thought, yes, this baby is my miracle baby. This baby is going to make it. She named her baby Bunny. She was excited. She got to 15 weeks. She's like, awesome. Week 16, water broke prematurely. And once your water breaks, there's no chance of survival for your child. That's it. It's over. So she went back to her doctor and said, obviously this is what happened. The doctor confirmed it, but said, because of the 15-week abortion ban in Florida, I can't do anything for you. I cannot, at least give you that comfort of letting, you're carrying a child that's no longer alive. I'm going to spare you the pain of having to go through that. And I'm also going to address the medical issues that could come from that. Doctor said, can't do anything. So sorry. The nurse literally handed her antibiotics and said, I'll pray for you. So now we're doing hopes and prayers for women's lives. Forget like gun violence, all of that. No, no. Now we're saying a medical professional is giving hope and prayer in a modern day to a woman who is in distress. She leaves. The next day, she passes her fetus in a public bathroom and she nearly dies from excessive blood loss.
Yeah.
And all of this could have been prevented had we not had that 15-week abortion ban. Because again, this was a wanted, per your point, this wasn't a wanted pregnancy. This was somebody who wanted to have a child, but physically could not. And now her life was placed in jeopardy because of this law. And there's going to be more Anya Cooks and more people that are experiencing this type of trauma because of the fact that you're no longer able to make this medical decision between you and your doctor. And then on the second point, with regards to the sexual assault aspect, as someone myself who is a survivor of sexual assault, something I don't particularly care to talk about as a general premise, but, is one of those things where the amount of shame you carry, even though it wasn't your fault, like you can intellectualize that it wasn't your fault, but the way that we have been raised, especially those in the auntie generation, as I like to call it, we were raised a certain way that if you are in X situation, then anything that happens after that is your fault. What were you wearing? Were you drinking too much? Did you do this? Did you do that? And so all of this shame is something that you carry, and you may not necessarily be ready to reveal to your loved ones, let alone a complete stranger who happens to be part of law enforcement, but is a complete stranger. You're going to talk about possibly the most traumatic thing that has ever happened in your life. And then come to find out, let's say you end up being pregnant by your rapist child, you either have to, A, bare your soul to law enforcement, hope they believe you, and then jump through these hoops of going to 2 doctors as time is ticking, right? Because it's not like the pregnancy is going to stop and wait till you go through all these hoops. Life still keeps going. Or you don't say anything, and now we'll have to seek an underground method to be able to terminate this pregnancy so that you're not forced to carry your rapist child. I mean, the inhumanity of this to me is just beyond the beyond. And I still am at a loss as to why common decency doesn't even cross some of these people's minds. And I know it's all like, oh yeah, we're saving babies, but are you? Because Black women are still 3 times more likely than white women to die in childbirth. Where's the funding towards that? One of the amendments that Representative Bassabi voted down was to fund rape treatment centers. So if this is the mindset and you're saying, oh yes, it's about life, then what are you doing to help the mother and help the life of that child once they're here? If you're not doing anything, then you're not pro-life. You're just pro-birth, and you could give a damn about what happens afterwards. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. So,
no, you are. If I could add 2 more things to that, and I want to say you're absolutely correct, and why this legislation is so problematic. 2 things. 1, people don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks, unless you're really, really trying. And the only way you can detect if you are pregnant at 6 weeks is through blood work. And mind you, that is very, very expensive. And you're like, you can get an ultrasound. No, ultrasounds aren't effective until 8 weeks, 8 to 9 weeks. So when we say it's pretty much a ban, abortion ban, is because it's unrealistic. All the things that you need to do to verify that you're pregnant cannot happen until 8 to 9 weeks later. When you start running tests to see if this fetus is viable or if there are any fetal abnormalities, that doesn't happen until 15 weeks, 14, 15 weeks later. And again, blood work is required. And I'm saying this because that is a barrier. The cost associated with getting lab work done at this crucial time period is very, very expensive. And then let alone you have to get off work, you have to find, if you have other children, you have to find childcare and all of that. That's one point. The second point is, you said it you are spot on, Melba. Yes, you are pro birth, because right now we live in a state that does not respect maternity and paternity leave. We don't respect health care. We don't expect people living in decent conditions, because affordable housing is non-existent here. And then lastly, people can't survive to live. So you're asking people to carry out a pregnancy or bring other life to this world when they can't even survive. We can't even provide them with the basic necessities to survive. So tell me how that makes sense, Ron DeSantis, and the many legislators who voted for this 6-week ban. It makes no sense. And if you truly care about Floridians, you would definitely put aside all of this partisan BS and really center the needs of Floridians.
And interestingly enough, I mean, I don't know how this lands on you, but the fact that the governor signed this bill into law at 10:45 at night with no press, when he has a habit of doing big splashes and big press conferences every time, shows you where most of the Republican Party seems to be on this issue. Because number one, and story came out today that one of his top donors, one of his mega donors and his friends made a public statement saying that because of the 6-week abortion ban and the banning of books, they're going to pause on any donations to his campaign and to his fund. Because again, they're like, listen, this is a bridge too far, right? Like, I've been reading some articles, and again, Nancy, I want to hear if this has been sort of the chatter you've been hearing, especially in Republican circles, that, they were okay kind of with the 15, but they're just like, the 6-week is a bridge too far. The suburban moms aren't going to be down with this. Like, we're going to lose seats if we keep pushing this. And that they're telling the the anti-abortion activists, listen, be happy with the 15, be happy that Roe versus Wade has been struck down, stop, because you're making it bad for all of us. That's what I'm kind of hearing, but what are you hearing?
That is correct. And no one is going to go on the record, because we still live in a state that feels he prides himself in saying this is a free state, but it's actually everything but a free state. So folks don't fear being removed from office, fear being stripped from their committees, and the list goes on and on and on. So you'll never get anyone on record saying this, but we have overwhelming data that says most Floridians, if not a large majority of Floridians, support abortion, because they understand that it is it's healthcare. Abortion is healthcare. So as we all sit here and say, oh my God, DeSantis is a Florida problem. No, DeSantis is on a ticket to the national stage, and he is going to be a national problem. So we all are upset about what's going on here, but this is a stepping stone to the White House. And if I don't say anything or you don't hear anything out of this conversation, is for you all. We all know somebody that lives outside of the state, or even your neighbor. Register them to vote. Get them active, because listen, I had friends who are like, oh, this doesn't pertain to me. I'm keeping my head down. But they are coming after our schools. They're coming after our healthcare. They're coming after our affordable housing. People, insurance. She started paying attention when she got dropped from her insurance, and now experienced flooding and is unable to get her home worked on because she has no insurance. So this is a kitchen table conversation, and we need to start getting comfortable with having these conversations with the people we love.
Absolutely. So, Betsy, hey, Betsy had a question, and I'm not clear about this. Maybe you know more about this. What about the new baby boxes legislation? What is that?
So this was brought up on the other side, which I think is extremely ridiculous. Thank you, Betsy, for highlighting this. So back in the day, when you had a child, what you would do is you would put your unwanted child, and you would drop them off to a fire department, or you would drop them off at the police station, and they would find a place for them. So what they are proposing, which they're going to spend thousands of dollars on is putting these boxes in areas or in places like jail, not jail, police stations, fire departments. These little boxes where you just place your baby and someone's on the other side and they will take them and then bring them to foster care. Yeah. So
Oh
that was
my
a
God, that is
proposal.
disgusting.
So that is legislation. I don't know where it is now. I can definitely follow up with you, but that is something to help mitigate. Oh, if you can't provide for this child, there's plenty of people out there that can provide for them. Mind you, we have a foster care system here that is a feeder program for sex trafficking. So
And
tell
overall,
me, tell me where and how these individuals are going to protect these children from these sex crimes. It just, to me, is it's not helping the situation.
wow. Very rarely am I speechless, as I'm sure all the viewers can attest. I am stunned. I am stunned. I mean, because where's the humanity in that? You're literally like, and not to mention the mother's, like, if the mother's struggling that desperately, how are they able to get health care? How do we know that this baby's even going to be healthy? It's now going to be a random police officer's responsibility to then just like pick up this. What, like, how does any of this make sense? Ow.
In their head, it does. In Tallahassee, it does. So it's a hot mess. I've been there a few times this session, and just walking down the halls is very depressing. I'm not sure if folks who watching know what's going on in Tallahassee right now, but you're not able to protest and just follow through with your First Amendment rights, right? You cannot even like whisper too loudly without Capitol Police coming charging your way. It is the tensions in the Capitol is very, very high. And unfortunately, we're living in a dark time. Florida is in a dark place right now. And it's really up to us to really fight this upcoming cycle for our state, or give up and move away. And I'm encouraging you all to fight because I'm giving it all that I got, and all that I have, moving forward. But I'm tired, and we can't do it by ourselves. We need everyone out here, not only to hold the folks accountable that are in office, but also vote these horrible politicians out. Vote them out. If you don't have the money, give them your time. Make phone calls, send text messages, call their office until you become a nuisance. Like, do all the things to make them feel your wrath of how they need to be voting moving forward.
Because the reminder is, remember, these are public servants. They are elected by us. They work for us. So we hire and we fire. So the way we hire is going to the ballot box and voting for someone. The way we fire is going to the ballot box and voting somebody out of office. So we have to make sure that they are responsive to what our values are and reflect, again, what the majority wants. And the majority does not want a 6-week ban. I mean, that is, if you look at all the different polls and studies that have been done around the country, that's a small minority. And one more thing I wanted to note too, in terms of the differing rulings between Washington and Texas, the Supreme Court issued a stay which allows, and this is the Supreme Court of the United States, allows abortion pills to still be accessible in this country. They're going to actually make a ruling on this, like a real ruling. Right now, a stay means, okay, we're going to keep things the way they are for now until we have time to kind of review and look things over and then make a final decision. I'm hearing that they're going to make a final decision later on this week. We'll see what. And again, it's a more conservative court. Many of them are devout Catholics. A lot of them said, well, if we can't comment, if whatever, but we promise to follow the law, and Roe is settled law, until it wasn't. So we don't know what's going to happen by the end of this week. But in preparation for that, Nancy, what are some things that people can do to prepare if, first of all, there becomes an issue with abortion pills being accessed in the United States. Number two, even if it's fully legal and somehow our Florida Supreme Court decides that the 15-week ban and therefore the 6-week ban is constitutional, what are some ways or resources that people can use or find in order to prepare just in case they end up with an unwanted pregnancy or help guide a loved one through that process?
Absolutely. So I support, if you can, to donate to abortion funds. So one that is very reputable and that I love and are doing the work is Florida Access Network. They're doing amazing work throughout the state of Florida. A shout out to Issa and Stephanie, who are out there just really making sure folks are educated in multiple languages. So donate to them. They'll be able to also direct you to resources. Florida for Reproductive, Floridians for Reproductive Freedom, is another source. They'll be able to tell you where you can get an abortion if you need a judicial bypass, what that means, how you can, what the steps you need to take, because we all not only need to think about folks who are over the age of 18, but we have to think about our young adults too, who will experience unwanted pregnancies. So those sites can guide you to where you can get an abortion, who you can get if you need legal support, where you can go in and get that. So again, that's Floridians for Reproductive Freedom, also known as FRF. And also Equality Florida is a great resource as well. Please shout out to Mary Akins, who does great work on organizing folks around gender justice and reproductive care. Really check them out and all of the legislation that they're fighting against, whether it's making phone calls, whether it's signing onto a sign-on letter. Those mean something. So those are a few things that you can do right now. And also really reiterate the message. Planned Parenthood has a great fact sheet on their site, or a message that can help guide you on, hey, where, what, why, where you can get an abortion, why it's needed, how to fight against the stigmas if you know someone who is experiencing this, and tell you that 15 weeks, you have up to 15 weeks in the state of Florida to get an abortion. So that is what I want to share with you all today. Please, please, please vote like your life depends on it, because it is a dark time in Florida.
Amen to that. And definitely, and on top of shouting out my bestie, Mary Eakins, also going to shout out Aaron Bosloon and Men for Choice, because these are men standing in the paint because they are impacted by abortions as well, right? Because listen, do you want to be dragged to court for child support? I mean, that's a real consideration, right? And so, and I'm not saying that's the sole reason, but again, if you're worried about the life of your partner, or, there's other concerns happening, or you're a guy and your sister is married to an abusive guy, and you're trying to help her get out of that relationship and she ends up pregnant. How are you able to navigate and help her and protect her? Right? I mean, there's all sorts of different levels to this. So never think of this as, oh, that's just a woman's issue, or that's just again, transgender people who, are able to give birth. It's not just a woman's issue. It affects all of us. And if you think about, okay, you chip away the right to abortion, what's next? Do you chip away at birth control? Do you then, and then what? And I mean, in Florida, and I'll get into this next week, I'm going to do a legislative update, but they've introduced legislation in Florida to say that you can't talk about, menstrual cycles with young girls in public school. Then they're also saying that you can't teach robust sex ed in public school. And then you want to have a 6-week ban on abortion. So you've got a trifecta here where our young people don't even have a chance, because if your parents are not able to talk to you about what's happening with your body, and you're not learning about it at school. And again, they're not teaching it at school like show and tell. It's literally like, here's the information that you need. Here are the products that you need to be able to address this. And this also means you now can get pregnant. If kids don't understand that, they're going to experiment. You're going to have more unplanned pregnancies. And then what?
And we also want to put there that South Florida has the leading cases of HIV and AIDS, right? And so when we don't talk about these issues, we are just, again, like you said, Melba, are setting our youth up to fail. These are kitchen table conversations that we need to have. I was at a brunch yesterday and we were talking about sex education and how this new policy will affect not only South Florida, but primarily Broward County, and how I was stunned to hear the numbers of young people pregnant or have children who are under the age of 18. And the most tragic statistic was there are two young people, the age of 10, who are currently pregnant in our school system in Broward County, right? And so babies out here having babies, that is not right. Their bodies are not fully developed. Like that just literally broke my heart to force a 10-year-old to have a child. A 10-year-old.
And
Yeah,
what kind of future are they going to have? What kind
right.
of, because you think about the practicality of this, you're going to end up dropping out of school. And then we're seeing in Arkansas, Governor Huckabee is out here trying to signing legislation that's allowing 13-year-olds to go to work. So is that the plan? Like the girls are going to be 10 and 11 years old, barefoot and pregnant, and the boys are going to be out here at the age of 13 and 14 working in a factory? I mean, nothing's wrong if that's the life choice you want to make at the age of 18, or if because you're doing so practically at the age of 16, 17, again, because you need to help your family. But even still, that should be unacceptable because families should have a living wage and kids should be able to at least finish their high school education and make a decision whether they want to go to a vocational school, whether they want to go to college, whatever the case may be. But at 13, you don't have that ability to make any of these huge life decisions. So again, now you have a situation. Now kids are going to likely be more victimized. And then we're not going to have a generation that's going to have, when I say wealth, I don't mean like, okay, we walking around with like, Shaq and Bezos money, right? But just saying that ability to be able to buy a house or, provide for your family or send your kids to college if decide they want to do that. Where's that money going to come from if you're not setting up our generation for success? I mean, this has so many tentacles that I think a lot of folks aren't really thinking that deeply into, including some of these people who are voting for these laws. So, okay. All right. Well, with that being said, Nancy, how can folks find you if they want to learn more, follow you, support, that sort of thing, donate?
Thank you, Melba, for that shameless plug. For those who want to follow me, you can follow me on IG, Facebook, or Twitter at Nancy Metayer-Bowen. As you see on the bottom of the screen here, look for that. Those are my handles, and hopefully we can all connect soon.
Absolutely. And for all the links that different organizations we mentioned, the links will be in the comment section of LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If you are listening to this on the podcast, it will be in the body of the description. So definitely be sure to check out those resources as well as do your own research. Reputable organizations now, don't go down the weird rabbit holes. Go to reputable organizations and check out these folks and learn a little bit more. Next week, we're going to do a legislative update. I kind of know what I'm going to say, but it's all kind of messy and it's messy for a reason. So I'll get into that part next week. Nancy, thank you so much for joining me on Mondays with Melba, and everyone take good care.
Bye.